Hi, this is Praios and I'm a professional gambler. Today I want to analyze a Nosebleeds pot limit Omaha hand for you. This hand was originally brought up by JNandez. I think they call him the doctor or professor of poker or pot limit Omaha, I don't know exactly. And he already analyzed the hand, but I disagree with his conclusions. That's why I want to give you a second opinion on this hand. But before we jump into the hand, please make sure to like and subscribe. This helps my channel tremendously, and this also let me know which content you want to see more of in the future. So as this is out of the way, let's now start with the analysis. The blinds played are 100, 200. Mr. Choi limps under the gun. He is the mark of the table. As you can see in the GG Poker Hut, his VPIP is 82. The small numbers attached to the names are the VPIP of the 6 players. Playing 82% of the hands is obvious suboptimal. Vasily folds and Max Limansky, a long-term high-stakes regular, decides to isolate Mr. Choi, raising pot and making it $900. Everyone folds to the big blind, who defends his blind by calling with Jack-Jack double suited. Afterwards, Mr. Choi also comes along. The flop comes out very draw heavy and Alice hits second nuts, making middle set. He decides to lead out, getting called by 2 players. JNandez was heavily criticizing his play. Here are some of his original quotes.
He has middle set, and you might think, well, this is a pretty strong hand. Let's just bet, build a pot, let's get the money in the middle. But the reality is, this is not a very strong hand on this board.
I disagree with this. It is a very strong hand. We got second nuts. True, we don't like about half of the turn cards, but at the moment our hand is nevertheless very, very good.
Your runouts are very marginal. There are a lot of turns, a lot of rivers, where your hand will not be the nuts anymore. You have no flush draw, no backdoor flush draw, you have no straight draw. And so the runouts are not that great. And whenever that is the case, you should highly consider either check raising the flop so you can avoid the runouts and just get the money in right on the flop.
This is something we can agree upon. By check raising, he will make the hand a lot easier to play, and he will also reduce the huge pot to stack ratio, which is eminent at the moment.
When you get raised on the flop, you're not excited. If you think about a range of hands like pocket queens, as well as big combo draws, you're going to be a pretty big dog. This is a marginal lead is what I'm saying.
I disagree with almost everything said. I love my hand, I am excited, I love to pump in money. If I am up against queens, I consider this a cooler, but I am not looking to fold my jacks basically ever. There is just one tricky spot, and this is when the fish raises and Maxi re-raises, but even then I would most likely go with my hand.
So if he would face a raise on the flop, I think that he would potentially fold Jack-Jack 9 deuce. But if you decide to lead hypothetically, and you would be facing, let's say, a call and then a push, you're actually going to fold Jack-Jack 9 deuce because your hand is just not doing good enough. And you need to or should be folding a set.
Welcome to Solver World. You are supposed to fold second nuts. If the fish calls and Max raises, I would never, ever, ever, ever do that. It's also fundamentally wrong to argue in this hand based on solver's ranges. This is because one guy is playing terribly and JNandez is putting him on GTO ranges in this analysis. Even folding bottom set seems odd to me. You cannot solve situations like this based on solvers, as this is not taking into account the suboptimal ranges of the fish. It also neglects the adjustment the regulars make based on the behavior of the fun player. The exploitative adjustments, so to speak. In Fernando's defense, he mentions that GTO ranges don't quite fit here. Nevertheless, he shows the results and demands a fold if middle set is getting raised. I would, as already said, never ever 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 in 1 million years consider a fold with jacks. Let's now try to back my claims with my own analysis. Let's first try to construct an all-in range for Mr. Choi. I will assume that he is getting in all sets and good combo draws like the ace high flush draw and a straight draw. He will also get in good mate hands that also include a flush draw. He will also overplay top 2 pair with a certain frequency. This range looks good based on my experience playing against dudes like him. Against his range we are ahead a lot and we are obviously not looking to fold. Even when I put max into the mix too and say we will have a raise and a re-raise on the flop, we still got barely enough equity to be all in. To be more precise, it's actually a fold by a really tiny margin against the tightest range I put in for max. But if max is just a bit looser, it becomes a call already. As we don't know his exact range and based on my previous experience with him, I would not lay my hand down. If we down fold, we might make a tiny mistake, but we could make a huge mistake if he has a considerably more loose range. In Maxi's shoes, I personally would semi-bluff kind of wide because his line looks nuttish and we might get very strong hands to fold, maybe even bottom set, or as Fernando suggests, middle set. Against the Chinese gambler we can also expect to be good a lot as he has a suboptimal range that is way too loose. In the best case we might get it in with a draw which is up against another draw which we dominate. In the scenario with max raising versus a donk and the call from the fish in which Fernando wants us to fold with Jack-Jack, my ranges suggest to get it in. Even when we are up against the nittiest range I was able to construct, we have just enough equity. We need a bit less than 39% and we got a bit more than 39%. Keep in mind that max is not shoving 7-7 for bottom set in the nittiest range. And I think most people would raise and get in with this hand, although GTO might suggest otherwise. Against all other ranges, which are a bit less nitty or some are also pretty wide, we will have the worst end of a flip. With the money already in the pot, we definitely cannot fold anymore. But I have to admit, the spot is a lot closer than I thought against the tight range. This shows us that the solvers do a very good job, but you cannot use the GTO results in spots like this, where one guy is dividing too much from optimal play and both players also have to make exploitable adjustments to their normal game plan. As no raises happen on the flop, we will now see a turn card. This basically is the best card possible for the jacks, and potting to get max protection and value is definitely the way to go. Surprisingly, the fun player now wants to get it in. I would love it in the big blind spot. I put him on something like 2 pair that waited for a safe turn or some sort of draw that now got better in the eyes of the fun player. For example, he might have turned 2 pair in addition to a flush draw or an open ender. Sometimes these recreational players also lose their shit and just get in a draw and top pair, although seeing a river has to be better. This might happen because this guy isn't gonna fold top pair anyways, getting a good price on the river, so he might as well go all in. It turns out that I was correct. The top pair and open ender turned to pair 2 and he couldn't let go. They run it twice. Unfortunately for Alice, his hand can only hold once and they split the pot. Let me know what you think about my analysis. Is JNandez right or is my analysis more accurate? This was it for today. I hope you learned something and enjoyed the video. If this is the case, please like and also consider subscribing if you don't want to miss any of my future videos. Thanks for watching. Bye.